was to address the team's performance, ensure everyone was on the same page, reaffirm goals, and a belief after starting a discouraging way to the season. RC, please take me through this through a player's perspective. Yeah. Is a players-only meeting after week one a bad sign?
Absolutely, it's a bad sign. You don't have players-only meetings because you don't believe in a player's physical ability to play the game. You have a players-only meeting because you don't believe in the players in the locker room's football character. You don't believe in the relationships that you've built. You don't believe in the fact that everybody is on one accord. Everybody is working in the same manner to reach the same goal. And so now when you start to have those conversations, I've never had a players-only meeting where we talked about scheme. I've never had a players-only meeting where we talked about X's and O's. I never had a players-only meeting where we talked about weekly structure of how we went about our business. We had players-only meeting because this guy had a problem with that guy. We had a players-only meeting because this dude didn't feel like that dude was doing what he needed to do to carry the team. And if you look at the off seasons of the Miami Dolphins, it seems like they've been having these players-only meetings publicly through the media. And so now, finally, they figured out the fact that now that we ain't getting along, now that we not vibing, now that we not working together, it also shows up on the scoreboard when we get our doors blown off in week one by Daniel Jones and the Indianapolis Colts. You have a players-only meeting because the sky is falling, not because the sun is shining.
Cam?
I'm with RC 110%. I've never had a players-only meeting when everything was going good. Why? It's because when everything is going good, players are vibing in the cafeteria. Players are vibing in the workout facilities, in the training rooms, and things like that. Players-only meeting is a sign of disaster. The sky is falling, and I'm touching it for all the wrong reasons. And this is the thing too that I'm peeping up in Miami. I don't really like talkative Tua. Over the last month or so, this whole offseason, we've heard more from Tua Tagovailoa than we have ever have. I'm saying to myself, bro, I like quiet Tua. I like Alabama Tua when all he did was just work. Maybe it was the blind tips or certain things like that, but it's like when we're getting to a point where our quarterback is talking about, I want to see if somebody's going to watch film. Hey, I'm going to see this. Or, yes, he has to apologize for or insinuating certain things. It's getting real messy. And also, not to just, rag on Tua, bro, Tyreek Hill. We're hearing more about Tyreek Hill off the field than actually on the field for obvious reasons. And I'm not going to touch that point. But for this whole situation in Miami, it's a recipe for destruction. And if they do not fix that, it's not going to fare well.
S.A.?
That's the player's perspective. Let me give you the media's perspective. It's heaven for the reporters down there because there's no shortage of stuff to write about or talk about. Nothing at all. You ain't even got to work. They handed it to you. The team, you got football players that are not me, not pundits, not commentators. You have football players calling the Miami Dolphins soft. You have the statistics that show in 40-degree weather or less, they might as well not even show up. They don't want to play. We all know the distractions. Take it from me. We know the distractions in South Beach. There's a lot. You understand what I'm saying? There's a lot of stuff to do, okay? So you could get yourself in trouble in that way. The sun is going to shine tomorrow. They act like it. They talk like it. They play like it. That's why they suck. They're pathetic. And when you look at Mike McDaniels, his tricks, his gimmickry, his gadget type of coaching, that is no longer working. Ain't been in the playoffs the last 2 years. You Tyreek Hill, ain't nobody tell you to leave Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City. You did that. You went there, and you could have left for the money, and that would have been cool because everybody understand that. But what did you do? You talked about Tua Tagovailoa like he was comparable to Patrick Mahomes. That was a mistake, okay? Now you've got a situation where Tyreek Hill is on the sidelines engaging in all kind of histrionics, drawing the camera to him for the wrong reasons on the sideline after doing it last year, driving to the damn game. They've made more news off the field than they have on the field because of the nonsense that is going on there. Change is coming to Miami, and it needs to. No question about it.
Seems like
because they're not a team. They're just a team. They're just guys with talent.
It seems like there's a lot of question marks with the culture for sure. See, RC, This white sport coat, this printed shirt, the Vegas strip, the breeze, the sunshine, this doesn't happen by accident. Fight night is upon us. Stephen A., we'll be calling on you next for a little tail of the tape. It's Crawford Canelo. Stephen A. is going to give us his thoughts on threw for just under 300 yards, 2 TDs, while Green Bay's defense kept Jaden Daniels in check all game long. Micah Parsons knows that if the defense keeps it up, they are tough to beat.
Defense wins championships. J Love, I think, you give us 20 points, we should be able to win that game. It's all about getting stops and getting the ball back into the offense. As y'all seen against Baltimore or Buffalo, you can have a quarterback damn near have a perfect game but still lose because guess what? The defense gave up, 40 points? So defense won championship. They want to, I think the fans like points and they like to see the big plays, but when you play great defense, it's just so beautiful to see.
It is beautiful, Micah. And RC, I need you to build the drama for me. What's the bigger deal from last night? Is it the Packers' dominance or is it seeing Jaden look pedestrian?
I mean, it's the Packers' dominance. Listen, we've seen so many great quarterbacks have tough nights, have tough weeks, but that normally happens when you're playing against exceptional defenses. And I want you to think about this. When we watch Brett Favre running down the sideline, holding his hands up in the air as Desmond Howard ran a 100-yard kickoff into the end zone, they had that Lombardi because on the other side, there was a man named Reggie White, the minister of defense. When we saw Aaron Rodgers be absolutely phenomenal against the Pittsburgh Steelers and that defense in 2010-2011 Super Bowl, yeah, he was great. But they had Charles Woodson, and they had Clay Matthews, and they had Nick Collins, who had a pick six. Defense does win championships, and I disagree with Micah when he says that I know fans like to see the points. Yeah, the fans of Green Bay love to see the points, but they love to see dominant defense. And I talked to Matt LaFleur this offseason. There's a new trophy case in Green Bay, and there's an empty spot in that trophy case. All the rest of the spots have Lombardis. He said he wanted them to start this season with the end in mind, with the destination in mind, and he wanted them to play every single night. Like everything they were doing was to get another Lombardi trophy in Titletown. And when you watched that team play last night, it wasn't just about winning that game, it was about dominating that game. And that's why that's the bigger deal for me, because that's the thing that says to me that the Green Bay Packers are true Super Bowl contenders.
Cam?
Yeah, I'm looking at a situation where I'm really concerned about Jaden Daniels, and then obviously seeing Austin Eckler go down, which is a safety valve for you. Zach Ertz is on the back end of his career. When you look at Deebo Samuels, I want them to use Deebo Samuels like a receiver and not just a glorified gadget player. You know what I'm saying? I'm looking at Terry McLaurin. Hey, bro, you're getting paid top 10 money. We need you to perform, not getting covered by guys that should not on paper be covering you as good as they were. So, yes, were the Green Bay Packers dominant? Absolutely. Are they looking like one of the premier teams in the NFL? Absolutely. But also leading up until this season, we were talking so much about Jaden Daniels. And the things about, expectations is when you're going into your second season as, coming off a very successful rookie campaign, you have film. My challenge is not just to Jaden Daniels, but it's also like I just said earlier, it's about Cliff Kingsbury to really get into his bag, to really upgrade the software, not just from the philosophical standpoint, but also from the personnel standpoint that Jaden Daniels has at his disposal.
S.A.?
RC's not wrong, but I'm going to go with Cam on this for a different kind of reason. We came into this season wondering who's going to be that team challenging the Philadelphia Eagles. We walk away with thinking that the Commanders ain't going to be one of them. Even though the Packers have Micah Parsons and their defense has been upgraded because of him, without him, we looked at them and we said, all right, if Jordan Love is that dude, they got all the pieces there in place to really, really challenge and make some noise in the NFC. We don't know about Detroit. We don't know about the back of Matthew Stafford. We see Baker Mayfield doing this thing in Tampa, but we wonder whether or not they can really, really elevate to that level. So we had the Packers in the mix. But we also had the Commanders because they were in the NFC Championship game last year, and Jaden Daniels was an absolute stud. And so we're looking at them now and we're saying, is Washington really good enough? That's the question that we're asking ourselves because, RC, I don't think you're saying Jaden Daniels, I don't know about him right now. I don't think that's a question mark for you. I don't think that's a question mark for you, Cam. I think that when we saw the NFC Championship game, one of the things that we marveled at in Philadelphia, romping them and putting up 50-plus points in the NFC Championship game, we said the only person that really showed up for Washington in that game was the rookie. It was all the veterans that didn't show up, but the rookie did. And so this is not a question about him, but it is a question about the Commanders and what they really have, what they really put together compared to what a Green Bay has, to what a LA may potentially have. And I think that's what we're looking at right now.
Stephen A., I love the fact that you hit the point of the NFC Championship, because I do think that is the thing that makes last night's performance sort of eye-popping for Washington, even though I think it's a bigger statement by Green Bay, because it's this. So much of Washington's success last year was how great Jaden Daniels was. It was how big he was in fourth quarter comebacks, how big he was in the clutch moments like the fourth down where he stiff arms a defensive tackle from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the playoffs to win in the wild card round. It was all those things he was able to do, the big pass to De'Ami Brown against the Detroit Lions. And so we watched him show up against Philadelphia, and you started to think to yourself, is the rest of this team good enough? And so now what we're asking of Jaden Daniels is to be just as good, if not better, this year. But much to Cam's point, Cliff Kingsbury has to help with that. I do think Deebo Samuel still has juice in the tank. When you look at what he's done in the first 2 weeks with the football in his hands, I think he's shown that he can be a valuable part of this offense. How do we get Terry McLaurin involved? And is Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt a good enough back to be a number one? There are some things this team has to prove, but it starts with Jaden Daniels playing above and beyond, and that's difficult week in and week out.
Cam?
Man, that's extremely difficult asking still a young quarterback. And I just know the pressure. I know when you're asking a player to not only play and uphold your end of the bargain, but go over and beyond with compensating for other players. When I'm looking at this roster right here, and the Green Bay Packers have done an unbelievable job with drafting these players, and they're getting a bang on their buck, or as they call it, homegrown players. When I look at Romeo Doubs, he was drafted by the Green Bay Packers. Matthew Golden, drafted by the Green Bay Packers. Malik Heath, Jaden Reed, obviously got hurt last night, but Dontavion Wicks, and obviously those tight ends. Where are we going to see Noah Brown? Are we going to see Luke McCaffrey? Are we going to see Jalen Lane, really step up and uphold their end of the bargain, for the Washington Commanders? Obviously Terry is who he is. Zach Ertz is who he is. And now we know what Jaden Daniels can be and what he can deliver on. But he needs help. When I'm seeing the Green Bay Packers go out there and operate, Jordan Love is giving guys opportunities to make plays. And guess what? They're making plays. They're selling out. I'm over here looking at rosters like, bro, who is the old boy? Where'd he come from? Second-round pick, fifth-round pick, fourth-round pick. These picks have obviously turned out to be something that we need to start paying more consideration to, and that's what we will definitely be doing.
Stephen A., here's my question to you. You listen to Cam rattle off some of those names on both sides in the skill players room. Think about why we thought Terry McLaurin's signing was so important. It's because we looked at that wide receiver room of the Washington Commanders and said, outside of Terry McLaurin, they don't have an explosive player. How much do you think that's playing a part in what Jaden Daniels is asked to do, though, Stephen A.?
I think that's playing a profound part, but in the same breath, I'm looking at Cliff Kingsbury. You the former head coach in Arizona. You're supposed to know a thing or two about offense. You were effective last year where we were raving about him and saying, we came into this season saying, if Washington is to replicate what we saw from them last year, this man is going to be back in the head coaching seat come next season. That's what all the speculation was when you talked about the Washington Commanders. You got a head coach in Dan Quinn who's coached the team to a Super Bowl before, know a thing or two about being a head coach, changed the culture in the nation's capital in the aftermath of Daniel Snyder and all of that, and yet we come into this season, and even though they won the first game against the New York Giants, we look at them against the Green Bay Packers last night, and it's not the loss, but it was how lopsided it was. Yeah, the final score didn't indicate that. But Green Bay pretty much dominated this game. They controlled this game. There was at no time did you look at this game and say, you know what? Green Bay could be in danger of losing this game. You just didn't have that feel, and that's not what we're expecting to see from a Jaden Daniels team. It's not on him, no. It's about that personnel that Cam just alluded to. They got to step up and handle their business, which y'all both know better than me.
All right, they got the Raiders, Falcons, Chargers next. We're leaving